The author of this fanfiction name is Fanatic06. He works on fanfiction.net and the link is in the description to the stories.
Chapter 4, The Route to Viridian City. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were walking along Route 1. It had been about 2 hours since they had left Pallet Town. It had been pretty uneventful so far, with just small talk between Ash and Serena and the occasional Pika-Pie from Pikachu. They hadn't seen any Pokemon yet to try and capture. The casual pace they were taking left them each to their own thoughts. Pikachu was especially intrigued by its new trainer. So far, Ash had kept his promise to treat it just like a friend. The boy was truly unique for a human. He seemed to really care about Pokemon and his friends. Pikachu turned to glance at its trainer. Ash and Serena noticed and gave a grin back at the Pokemon. Yes, Pikachu could trust that Ash was indeed the kind person he made himself out to be. He was the key that would allow Pikachu to open up to humans again. Serena certainly didn't seem like a bad person either, but it was still slightly wary of her. "How are you guys holding up?" Ash asked Serena and Pikachu, snapping the Pokemon out of its thoughts. "We've been walking for a while, and my feet are beginning to hurt. Can we take a short break?" Serena asked while Pikachu nodded in agreement. "Sure. This field looks like a nice place to sit down for a bit," Ash replied as he stopped and set down his backpack. The others following suit. Ash sat down and unzipped his backpack, pulling out one of the snacks his mom had packed for him, a granola bar. Serena also sat down and released Charla. It immediately went over to Pikachu and began to converse with it. "So Serena, what made you decide to become a Pokemon trainer?" "You've never told me," Ash asked as he took a bite out of his granola bar. Serena sighed. She knew she couldn't hide the truth from Ash forever, so now would be as good, or bad, a time as any. "Ash, there's something I have to tell you," Serena began. "The truth is, I don't really want to be a Pokemon trainer like you. I don't have any interest in collecting badges or entering the Pokemon League." "Really?" Ash questioned as he took another bite. "Well, that's no problem. There are a lot of people who don't want to become trainers. So which do you want to do? Coordinator? Breeder, or—" "I think you misunderstood me, Ash," Serena interrupted, also getting the attention of Pikachu and Charmander. "The thing is, I don't know what I want to do." "You don't?" Ash asked, clearly surprised. "Yet you still came on a Pokemon journey." "Yes, I did," Serena replied and blushed in embarrassment. "Why?" Ash wondered. "It's because all of you were leaving this year. You, Leaf, and Gary. I didn't want to be by myself again. Also, I was hoping that by coming with one of you, I could figure out my goal along the way. You must think I'm being pretty ridiculous." "Coming without a goal," Serena said gloomily as she buried her face in her hands. She was surprised to feel a comforting hand lay on her shoulder. She looked up to see Ash smiling warmly at her. "No. It's not stupid," Ash said consolingly. "Wanting to be with your friends and finding your goal is only natural. To tell you the truth, I probably would have done the same thing if I were in your position." "Really?" Serena asked. "You don't think I'm being selfish or anything?" "No," Ash replied, shaking his head. "If you don't know what you want to do yet, it's okay. There are some people who may take years to figure out what they want, and that's fine. I know one day you will figure out your goal, and I'll stay by you until you do. Once you figure it out, you can bet I'll be there to support you every step of the way." Serena stared up in surprise at Ash. Once again, he had proven his kindness by not being angry or confused as she expected. He was being so understanding and supportive. "Thank you, Ash. Really, Serena said gratefully. No problem. What are friends for? Ash asked, giving her a thumbs up. Heh, heh. Right, friends, Serena said nervously and blushed. Pikachu and Charmander sweat dropped. For as kind as Ash was, he sure was dense. To his credit, he was only 10, so it was to be expected. The two Pokémon still thought it was funny that they hadn't even known their trainers long, and even they thought it was obvious how Serena felt about Ash. Hey! Let's make a promise to stay together until the end and always look out for each other. Ash said as he stuck out his hand. Pikachu and Charla, are you guys in, too? Charmander. Charla said enthusiastically as it ran forward and placed its hand on Ash's hand. Pikachu hesitated for just a little bit but still ran forward and placed its paw on the others. Serena almost felt tears come to her eyes as she saw how supportive everyone was. All right. Let's do it. She agreed as she placed her hand on all the others. Then it settled. Ash nodded as they broke off. The scene was interrupted by the sound of flapping wings above their heads. They looked up and saw a tiny bird Pokémon fly above them and land about 50 feet away. It was slightly plump and had a brown-colored body and cream-colored stomach. It had a pink beak and pink talons. A couple of others came and landed by it. Oh! Pidgey! Ash exclaimed in excitement as he and Serena pulled out their Pokédexes to scan it. Pidgey, the tiny bird Pokémon. Pidgey is mild-mannered and gentle. It is a good way for beginning trainers to test their skills, the Pokédexes said in their monotone, robotic voices. Awesome. What do say we catch one, Serena? Ash asked as he looked over at Serena. No. That's okay. I'd rather see you try to catch a Pokémon first before I attempt to, Serena replied. Well. All right then, Ash shrugged as he turned towards the Pidgey again. Pikachu and Charmander looked on with interest. Ash pulled out his Pokeball and got a serious look on his face. He turned his Pokémon League hat backwards. Pokeball, go! He shouted as he threw it forward. The Pokeball soared through the air towards Pidgey. The Pokémon saw the incoming Pokeball just before it connected. Ash smiled as the ball made a direct hit. It then released a red energy that sucked Pidgey inside before it landed on the ground. The Pokeball shook back and forth a few times before it opened back up and released Pidgey. Woo, woo. Pidgey hooted before disappearing inside a bush. What? Ash questioned in confusion as Serena let out a sigh. Pokémon need to be battled and weakened before being captured, the Pokédex suddenly spoke up. Ash mentally kicked himself for forgetting something so basic. Pikachu couldn't help but snicker at its trainer for his naivete. Ash glared at Pikachu. Ha, ha, Pikachu. I'm sure it's hilarious. Let's see you battle Pidgey, Ash challenged. Pika-pie, Pikachu shook its head as it continued to snicker. It was enjoying this way too much. All right, fine. Just you watch. I'll capture Pidgey by myself. Ash shouted as he pulled his blanket out of his backpack and marched towards the other Pidgey. Wait, Ash. I don't think that's such a good idea, Serena said warily, trying to stop him. It's all right, Serena. I'll be fine. Ash replied as he turned around and gave a reassuring smile. Serena nodded but was still concerned as she watched Ash turn back around to the Pidgey. As Ash approached one of the Pidgey, it turned around to look at him, giving him a curious expression. It wondered what Ash was going to do. Hi there, Ash said in a gentle tone so as not to startle the Pidgey. They continued to stare back and forth at each other for about 15 seconds before Ash made his move. You're mine, Pidgey. Ash yelled as he brought the blanket down on the Pokémon and covered it to hold it in place. Pidgey began to struggle violently trying to break free, but Ash was holding on tight. Come on, Pidgey. Stop squirming. Ash grimaced. Soon, Ash felt something strange building up in the blanket. It kept building up until what looked like a huge gust of air came out of the blanket. It lifted both Ash and the blanket off the ground and threw them a short distance away. Pidgey had apparently used its gust attack. It then flew away. Are you all right, Ash? Serena exclaimed with worry as she and Charmander ran over and helped Ash back to his feet. Yeah, Ash responded, a little dazed. Pikachu was now laughing hysterically. It couldn't believe that this kid thought he could just tackle a Pidgey with a blanket and get it like that. Ash sure could provide it with some good laughs. It was liking him more every minute. Man, this is harder than I thought, Ash muttered. There's got to be something that will weaken it. Wait a minute, Ash. Where is your blanket? Serena asked. Oh yeah, it flew out of my hands when that Pidgey used gust on me, Ash remembered as he began to look around. He then spotted the blanket a short distance away. It was clearly covering something. Whatever it was, it appeared to be around the same size and shape as a Pidgey, but something was telling Ash that it wasn't one. Ash walked over to the blanket and cautiously picked it up, uncovering what was underneath, and he gasped. Sure enough, as Ash expected, it wasn't a Pidgey. It was something much worse, a Spearow. Judging by its expression, the Spearow clearly was not happy. Boy, did he mess up. Hey there, Spearow. Sorry about that. I'm sure it wasn't very pleasant to have that blanket fall on you like that and interrupting whatever it was you were doing. It was an accident. Are we good? Ash hoped in an attempt to calm the ticked-off Pokemon. Serena took out her Pokédex and scanned the Spearow. Spearow, the tiny bird Pokemon. Unlike the gentle Pidgey, Spearow are very aggressive and have a ferocious temper. The Pokédex said. Ash. Be careful. Serena warned. Pikachu was no longer laughing as it watched the scene with worry. It knew the type of danger that Ash was in right now. Ash began to back away very slowly, trying not to make any sudden movements. Spearow was keeping its angry expression and not taking its eyes off Ash. Just keep backing away slowly, Ash thought to himself. Then, to his great misfortune, his right foot caught a large rock which caused him to stumble backwards and fall on his bottom. Ash's fall seemed to have set Spearow off like a time bomb. It gave a shriek, took flight, and immediately began to charge at Ash. Whoa! Ash cried as he threw the blanket over himself to be protected from Spearow. It reached Ash and began to mercilessly peck at him. Ouch! Hey! Quit it, Spearow! Ash yelled from underneath the blanket, grimacing from the pain. Oh no! We've got to help him! Serena gasped. He had helped her in the past. Now it was time she helped him. She then turned to her Charmander. Charla, use your Ember. Attack on the Spearow. Charla then opened its mouth and shot out several tiny embers from its mouth. They made a direct hit. Spearow cried out from the pain. Then its attention shifted to Serena and Charla. Spearow! It screeched as it charged toward Serena and Charla instead. No! Ash cried as he threw off his blanket and began running as fast as he could move to them. Serena and Charla stood frozen in fear. There wasn't enough time for Serena to call out an attack and have Charla obey before Spearow reached them. Ah! Serena screamed as she crouched and covered her body as best as she could with her arms to brace herself for the impact. Pikachu! Serena looked up to see Pikachu jump over her and release a thunder shock at Spearow. It struck Spearow directly. Spearow screeched again as it was shocked and fell to the ground, clearly exhausted. Serena breathed a huge sigh of relief. Thank you, Pikachu. Are you okay, Serena? Ash asked as he reached her. Yeah, I'm okay, but what about you, Ash? You suffered a lot of attacks from that Spiro, and you're bleeding. Serena gasped once she saw the trickles of blood coming from Ash. I'll be fine, Ash replied. It's nothing, some disinfectant and a couple of bandages won't fix. I'm more worried about you. When I saw that Spiro charge you, I became so scared that you would get hurt. If you were hurt while I was around, I don't know what I would do. Serena felt a great rush of affection for Ash by what he said. He didn't even care that he was hurt just as long as she was safe. I'm fine, Ash. Thank you, she smiled. Why don't we get you cleaned up before continuing on? I'll get the first aid kit my mom packed. All right. Thanks, Ash nodded before he turned to Pikachu. You were awesome, Pikachu. Thanks for helping Serena. Pika-Pie. Pikachu said as it smiled and nodded its head. Spiro. Spiro. The sudden cry of the Spiro brought everyone's attention back to it. It was continually crying out to all the surrounding trees in the field. The group froze. There was only one thing it could be doing. Oh no. It's calling for help. Ash gasped. Sure enough, a huge flock of Spiro came out of the trees and began making a beeline straight towards the group. Let's get out here. We've got to make a run for it. Ash yelled as he grabbed his backpack. Serena quickly grabbed her things, as well. Then she, Ash, and Pikachu, and Charla took off running as fast as they could. This is just great. Ash exclaimed as they continued to run. We've only been trainers for a few hours, and we're already getting into trouble. Let's just keep running. Maybe we can outrun them. Serena said hopefully. Ash looked behind them. He didn't count on it. The Spiro gaining on them pretty fast. They passed by a few kinds of various Pokemon. All were stopping what they were doing to observe the scene with interest. Maybe there is some way we can lose them. There's got to be some type of cover. Ash said desperately as they looked around. It was no good. They were on a completely open road. Ash. They're almost to us. Serena yelled. Ash turned around again, and sure enough, the Spiro were just behind them. Ash was quickly trying to think of something. He knew fighting was no good. There was no way that only 2 Pokemon could take on the 100 or so angry Spiro that were chasing them. Pikachu and Charla were running a few yards behind Ash and Serena, so the Spiro reached them first. As soon as the Spiro reached them, they began to use their peck attack relentlessly on the 2 Pokemon. They began to cry out from the pain. Oh no! Charla! Return! Serena cried as she stopped and quickly reached for her Pokeball and returned the Pokemon. Ash knew Pikachu hated Pokeballs, so he knew he had no choice but to fight his way through the Spiro to reach it. Pikachu! I'm coming! Ash yelled as he made a U-turn and dashed towards his distressed Pokemon. Cha! Cha! Pikachu cried as it continued to be attacked. Pikachu! I'm here! Ash said as reached Pikachu and scooped it up in his arms. He then fought off a few of the Spiro that were beginning to attack him also. Then he and Serena resumed running. It wasn't much longer before Ash and Serena began to tire out. They didn't know how much longer they could go on. The Spiro, on the hand, still seemed fired up and ready to pursue the 2 for a long time. To make matters worse, they reached a dead end at a cliff. They were trapped. What do we do now? Serena exclaimed as she looked at Ash in panic, hoping he at least had some idea. Ash looked down below the cliff and saw a river below. It was a long shot, but he knew they had no other choice. Ash turned his cap and gave a resolute expression. We have to jump, he said. Are you serious? Serena asked in disbelief. Yes. It's our only choice. Just hold on tight. Ash replied as he wrapped his arm around Serena's waist. Ash made sure he had a firm grip on Pikachu in his left arm and Serena in his right before shouting, "Okay, let's go." Then they both jumped towards the water below. The Spearow watched, momentarily confused, but their vicious nature wasn't going to let them get away that easily. They decided to wait and use their keen eyes to see if the humans would resurface. Then they would continue their pursuit. Ash and Serena landed in the water pretty hard, but it wasn't too painful. Ash let go of Serena and began to swim to the best of his ability despite his injuries and Pikachu in one arm. Serena was doing the same. They passed by various fish Pokemon as they continued to swim to the surface, but their clothes became tangled around something, a line of some sort. A young girl was fishing by the river. Her day had been fairly uneventful so far. Needless to say, she was pretty bored. Her name was Misty Waterflower, and she was 10 years old. She had red hair that was tied into a side ponytail and blue eyes. She wore an yellow t-shirt, blue jean shorts with red straps that went over the shirt, and red tennis shoes. She was from Cerulean City, but currently was not living there due to family issues. Instead, she was just traveling by herself in the hopes to prove herself to her family. Misty let out a sigh. "I'm so bored right now. I wish I could catch something." Just then, right on cue, she felt a tug on her fishing rod. Judging by how hard the tug was, it felt like a big one. "Oh my gosh! I must have hit the jackpot!" Misty exclaimed as she pulled with all her might. To her surprise, it wasn't a Pokemon that soared out of the water, it was instead two kids, a boy and a girl. "Aw, it was just some kids," Misty mumbled in disappointment. Her face then lit up when she saw a Pikachu in the boy's arms. She ran up to them. "Oh, and a Pokemon. Are you okay?" "Yeah, we're fine. Thanks," Ash said, panting. He then felt a slap go across his cheek. He looked up at the stranger in surprise. "What did she do that for?" "Not you. The Pokemon. Look what you've done to it," Misty shouted. "We didn't do this to it," Ash said defensively. Serena's face turned red from anger. This was some nerve this girl had. It was fine that this girl was worried about Pikachu, but it wouldn't hurt if she was concerned about her and Ash's well-being, too, and she was even accusing them of hurting Pikachu. Not to mention, Serena thought the slap she gave Ash was pretty uncalled for. If Serena wasn't so tired, she would probably go into total sass mode right now with this girl. "Then how could you let it get hurt like that?" Misty shouted again. Ash felt he had no need or the time to explain themselves to this girl who had done nothing but shout at them so far. He was getting a little irritated himself and just wanted to get away fast. "That doesn't matter right now. What matters is getting my Pikachu somewhere safe. Do you know where I can take it?" Ash wondered. "Humph. Well, you're in luck. There's a Pokemon Center in Viridian City a few miles from here. You can heal your Pikachu there," she told them, pointing in the direction to Viridian City. "Great. Thanks." Ash nodded. He was about to take off, but something caught his eye. It was a bicycle. "Perfect. Hey, Serena. We can use this bike," Ash said, gesturing to it. "Hey. You can't use it. That's my bike," Misty exclaimed. Everyone then heard the sound of screeching and wing flapping again. They turned around to see the flock of Spearow again. Ash and Serena couldn't believe it. These Spearow were still chasing them. "Man, these guys are persistent," Ash cried in disbelief. "We gotta go." He then ran towards the bike and put Pikachu in the basket and hopped on himself. Luckily, the bicycle had a pair of pegs on it so Serena could ride, as well. She got onto them and grasped her hands tightly on Ash's shoulders to keep her balance. She felt no qualms about borrowing this girl's bike because of the way she treated them. "Hey! Where do you think you're going?" Misty called out as they sped off. "We'll give it back someday," Ash shouted over his shoulder. Misty seethed as they disappeared from view. How dare they take her bike without her permission? She would make sure she would meet those two again, and her bike better still be in good condition, too. As Misty watched the Spiro fly overhead, she could also tell a storm was coming in. She would need to find shelter pretty quickly. She did secretly hope that those two kids and their Pikachu could make it to Viridian City safely. Ash was pedaling as hard as he could along the path. After fleeing from the Spiro for so long, Ash was becoming extremely tired. "Don't worry, Pikachu. We will be in Viridian City in no time. Then we can heal both you and Serena's Charmander." Pikachu gave a weak nod before it felt drips of water on its face. It was beginning to rain. "You have got to be kidding me!" Ash exclaimed as it began pouring rain. Now that it was raining, it was becoming very hard for Serena to stay on the pegs. They were becoming slippery, which was causing her to lose her balance. She gave a death grip on Ash's shoulders, trying to stay on. Ash grimaced at the pain, but he didn't care. They had to make it to Viridian City. "Ash! I'm losing my balance!" Serena cried as she began to slip. "Just hold on, Serena. You can't fall!" Ash yelled as he turned around. Unfortunately for them, because Ash had turned around, he didn't see the drop-off ahead of them. They rode straight off the ledge and tumbled onto the ground 8 feet below. The bike landed hard. The impact caused all of the bike's passengers to fly off the bike and onto the ground in pain. The bike bounced again and landed a short distance away. Ash was momentarily dazed, but he soon came to and saw Serena and Pikachu a few yards away on their backs. They were in obvious pain. "No. Serena. Pikachu. This can't happen," he said weakly. The huge tumble the trio took was all the Spiro needed to catch back up to them. They hovered in the air behind them and screeched as thunder cracked behind them. Ash had now had enough and got a determined look on his face. He had made a promise to Serena's mother to look after her, and he promised to protect Pikachu. He had failed in that, but there was something he could still do to make sure they could get away. "Serena, listen to me," Ash said as he shakily stood up, Serena following suit. "I want you to take Pikachu and run. Don't stop until you get to Viridian City. I'll hold off the Spiro." "Ash! Are you crazy? Those Spiro could seriously kill you!" Serena exclaimed. "I don't care. You guys are really important to me, and there's no way I'm going to let any of you be hurt because of me," Ash said firmly before he turned to Pikachu. "Pikachu! I'm so sorry I failed you as a trainer. I swore to keep you safe from danger, and I couldn't even keep that promise for one day. I understand if you never want to see me again. I still want you to do one last thing for me," Ash said as he brought out a forbidden device. "I need you to get inside your Pokeball." "Chuyu." Pikachu shook its head slowly. "I know you're scared, but if you get inside the Pokeball and go with Serena, I know that you two will be safe, and that's good enough for me," Ash said as he set the Pokeball next to Pikachu. Ash then turned around and slowly approached the flock of Spiro, grimacing from the amount of pain he was in. "No, Ash." Ash heard Serena yell from behind him, but he ignored it. Ash then stopped a short distance away from the Spiro and spread his arms out defiantly. There was no way he was letting them get any farther. "Spiro. Do you know who I am? I am Ash Ketchum from the town of Pallet. I'm destined to be the world's greatest Pokemon trainer. I can't be defeated by the likes of you," he shouted. Ash then turned his head back to Serena and Pikachu. Go on. You guys need to get out of here. Hurry. Seeing they weren't moving, he then yelled go. Before turning around to face the Spearow again. I'm going to capture and defeat every last one of you. Do you hear me? He yelled at the Spearow. Pikachu raised its head off the ground and watched Ash with amazement. It had never had a trainer like Ash before. Ash was definitely the type of trainer Pikachu was looking for. Ash had proven he would risk his own life for Pikachu, and that really touched it. It was then Pikachu decided it would remain by Ash's side until the very end. Come and get me! Ash hollered, as lightning flashed. The flock of Spearow then gave a mighty shriek and dive-bombed straight for Ash. Serena stood still as she watched helplessly. Ash had told her that as long as she and Pikachu was safe, he would fine. That wasn't fine for Serena, though. Ash had always been there for her in the past to help her. There was no way on earth she was going to abandon Ash like this. She will not. She then got a determined look on her face. She was sick of being the damsel in distress. It may be raining, she may be injured, and Charlo may be too weak to fight, but that doesn't mean she couldn't do anything. Ash! She screamed as she ran towards him as fast as she could. The Spearow continued to charge. Ash didn't care. He still stood defiantly with arms out. Serena continued to run forward. She was determined to get her crush out of the way even if she put herself in the danger. To her surprise, she saw a small creature run past her. It was Pikachu. Pikachu continued to run forward. It ran up Ash's backside then onto his shoulder. Ash didn't even have time to cry out in surprise before Pikachu leaped off of his shoulder and into the air. While it was in the air, a lightning bolt struck Pikachu, giving it a supercharge. Ash and Serena watched in amazement. Pikachu you! Pikachu yelled as it let off a massive thunderbolt attack, hitting all of the Spearow and blasting Ash and Serena back a few yards. Everything in the area was hit by the attack. Ash groaned as he regained consciousness. He could tell he had been out for a while as the thunderstorm was now gone, replaced by sunshine. The Spearow were nowhere to be seen either. Ash let out a sigh of relief, but he soon let out a gasp as he remembered Serena and Pikachu. Pushing himself up with hands, and looking around he saw them both lying flat on their backs a short distance away. Serena! Pikachu! He cried as he crawled over to them and began to gently shake them. Are you guys okay? Pikachu was the first to regain consciousness. Chuyu, it said tiredly. Hey Pikachu! That was an incredibly amazing attack. Are you alright? Ash asked. Pikachu weakly nodded its head back and forth. It was going to make it but still needed medical attention as quickly as possible. Ash! Ash turned at the voice and saw Serena slowly sitting up. Serena, you're alright. Ash said as he gently picked up Pikachu and went over to her. Yeah. I'm fine, she said weakly. Then she began to cry. Serena, what's wrong? Ash asked. It's you, Serena said in between tears. You were being so reckless. Those Spearow could have killed you. I know, Ash muttered and hung his head. But as long as you and Pikachu were safe, that was enough. No, it's not. Serena shouted back and shook her head. Ash, whenever we agreed to travel together, we said we would look out for each other. Not just you looking out for us. Serena. Ash trailed. He didn't know what to say. It's great that you care so much about us, Ash. That's just the kind of person you are, Serena continued, trying to dry her tears, but don't forget that we care a lot for you, too. Me, Pikachu, Charla, we all do. I am sorry, Ash said quietly. Serena finished wiping her tears and gave Ash a very tender look and took one of his hands in hers. You don't have to do this by yourself, Ash. Remember, we are all here for you. Remember the promise we made earlier? We are in this together until the end. You're right, Serena. Ash looked in his arms to see Pikachu slowly nodding its head, signifying it agreed with Serena. I promise. Anything that happens to us, we will do together. No one will ever be left behind. Thank you, Ash, Serena said genuinely. She then felt her blush return and quickly turned away. Anyway, we should go ahead and get going to Viridian City. We have to get Pikachu and Charla to the Pokemon Center. Had Serena been looking, she would have seen Ash's cheeks slightly red, also. She then began to stand up, but something got her attention as she looked up into the sky. Ash, what's that? Serena asked as her eyes widened at a huge Pokemon flying above them. It looked so majestic and glowed the 7 colors of the rainbow. Whoa, Ash muttered as he and Pikachu also looked in amazement. There is no data. There are still Pokemon that have yet to be discovered, the Pokédex suddenly said from Ash's pocket. Ash and Serena continued to watch the large Pokemon as it continued to fly. It soon disappeared over the horizon. Ash and Serena looked at each other and smiled. They couldn't believe they had just seen a new Pokemon like that, and on their first day. They began to walk toward Viridian City. And it wasn't long before they saw it in the distance. They would be there in just a little bit. Ash felt a small lick on his cheek. He looked down and saw it was Pikachu that did it. Ash's heart warmed considerably at the affectionate gesture from Pikachu. He had earned its trust. As they began to continue towards Viridian City, Ash and Serena knew they would have a long road ahead of them. They knew after today that their path would be filled with many dangers, but also many happy times. They would meet unforgettable people and Pokemon alike. No matter what happened, though, they knew as long as they had each other and their Pokemon, there was no obstacle that they couldn't overcome. Chapter 5, Pokemon Emergency. It was about 6:30 in the evening right now. Ash and Serena had just arrived in Viridian City with Ash cradling Pikachu in his arms. As soon as they had entered the city limits, they broke out into a run for the nearest Pokemon Center. Ash was going for his Pikachu and Serena for her Charmander, Charla. They were in such a rush that they weren't paying attention to the announcements that were being made throughout the city. Everyone, be on your guard. There have been reports of Pokemon thieves in the city. A female voice said throughout various intercoms in the city. The female voice belonged to Officer Jenny. She was the main police officer of Viridian City. She had been working in the police force for 15 years, and these thieves have been some of the most elusive she's ever had to try and catch. She was able to get a wanted poster out for them, but their picture was a bad shot and really only got their silhouettes. The thieves were said to be members of Team Rocket, the biggest crime organization in the Kanto region. Even the police force was constantly having trouble with Team Rocket. Team Rocket was said to be so dangerous that even if the police were able to find their main base, they would have an uphill battle trying to arrest them all. Officer Jenny gave a sigh after giving the announcement in her booth. She just wished she could have some sort of lead to the crooks. It was then that she noticed 2 kids run by her booth. One was a raven-haired boy carrying a Pikachu and the other was a girl with dark blonde hair. Judging by their bruises and how dirty their clothes were, she could tell they had been in some sort of trouble recently. Hold it! Officer Jenny called after them. The 2 immediately stopped and turned around to face the police officer. Where do you 2 think you are going with that Pikachu? Officer Jenny asked as she approached them. It was the boy who answered. My Pikachu is seriously injured, and we need to take it to the Pokemon Center. He replied. Right, and we need to get my Charmander there, too, the girl pleaded. Officer Jenny studied the two a moment before she determined they were telling her the truth. I understand. Just let me see your IDs to prove you're trainers, and you can go, she said. Do you mean our Pokédexes? The boy asked as he pulled the Pokédex out of his side pants pocket while the girl pulled hers from her backpack. Officer Jenny took the devices and pushed a few buttons, and the robotic voices spoke up. They introduced the two trainers as Ash Ketchum and Serena Gabina to prove their story was genuine. Okay. Your story checks out, Officer Jenny nodded as she handed them back their Pokédexes. Thanks, Ash replied before he addressed his previous concern. Can you tell us where the Pokémon Center is? Officer Jenny smiled. I'll do you one better. I'll take you to there myself. Really? Thank you so much. Serena said gratefully. No problem. Officer Jenny responded with a nod. With that, Officer Jenny ran into the garage next to her booth, hopped on her motorcycle, and fired on the ignition. She then drove out and stopped right next to the two trainers. Luckily, the motorcycle had a sidecar that was big enough for two people. Hop in, she told them. The two trainers got in the sidecar, and Officer Jenny sped off, blazing her sirens. Had they looked behind them, they would have noticed a red-haired girl holding a ruined bicycle. Running after them. Those two kids aren't going to get away from me, Misty thought. Nobody seemed to notice the huge hot air balloon that was flying overhead. It was in the shape of a cat-like Pokemon with a golden charm on its forehead called Meowth. The balloon lowered a hook from its basket and peeled off the wanted posters from the side of the police booth and brought them back up to the balloon's occupants. Ugh, can you believe this photo? It makes me look terrible, a woman in her 20s said in disgust. She had long, dark red hair that reached all the way down her back and curled inward at the end. She also wore a white uniform with a huge red R in middle of the shirt which opened slightly at bottom, exposing her stomach. She also had on black gloves and black boots. Tell me about it, Jesse, a man, also in his 20s, replied. He had blue hair that was parted at the sides and reached just above his shoulders. Like his companion, he also wore a white uniform, but his covered his whole boy below the head. He also wore black gloves and black boots. With this terrible picture, they will be sorry they ever looked at this face, the man added. We're all sorry after looking at your face. Stick to the plan, James. A new voice piped up. This voice didn't belong to a human but a Pokemon. It was a Meowth that could actually stand upright and talk in human language. Humph. You're right, James grunted before he turned to Jesse and gave a sinister smile. Are you ready to steal some Pokemon? I'm very ready, Jesse replied just as evilly. And don't forget. I'm the top cat. Moth. Meowth added. Ash and Serena wished Officer Jenny would slow down on her motorcycle. They were glad she was trying to get to the Pokemon Center as fast as she could. The only problem was Viridian City didn't have the smoothest roads. This caused the sidecar to shake violently, which made it very uncomfortable. As the Pokemon Center came into view, Ash looked down at his Pikachu in his arms. Don't worry, Pikachu. We're almost there, he said, which the Pokemon gave a weak nod to. Isn't she going to stop? Serena wondered as she realized they were coming closer and closer to the building, and Officer Jenny wasn't slowing down. Officer Jenny? Ash questioned uncertainly as they were almost at the door and she still hadn't stopped yet. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing, Officer Jenny replied as she continued to speed along. They were just seconds away from the double doors, and Ash and Serena were getting pretty nervous. We're going to crash. Serena cried, and out of reflex, she grabbed onto Ash for support, but the crash never came. Just before the motorcycle came into contact with the double doors, they automatically opened, and the vehicle shot through opening to the building. Officer Jenny then slammed on her brakes, and the motorcycle screeched to a halt just before it rammed into the front desk. "See? I told you I knew what I was doing," Officer Jenny said with a smile, looking at the almost terrified two kids. "Gracious! What's going on?" A nurse with pink hair in two buns cried as she ran out of the back room. "Nurse Joy! We have a Pokemon emergency," Officer Jenny stated firmly. Nurse Joy then ran over to the two kids in the sidecar and saw Pikachu's condition. "I understand. Chansey. Get a stretcher stat," she called over her shoulder. A pink egg-shaped Pokemon with stubby limbs that had pink curls on the side of its head and had an egg in its stomach pouch appeared. It was carrying a stretcher and moving as fast as its stubby legs could move. "Nurse Joy. Could you please take my Charmander? It's been injured as well," Serena said with worry, holding up her Pokeball for Nurse Joy to see. "I will," Nurse Joy replied and took the Pokeball before she gave it to Chansey. She then took Pikachu and placed it on the stretcher. Chansey then ran to the back room with Charla's Pokeball and the stretcher with Pikachu on it. As Ash and Serena climbed out of the sidecar, Officer Jenny gave a salute. "Well, my work here is done." Nurse Joy's sweat dropped. "Yes. You did a great job of getting them here. Just please use the driveway next time," she said nervously. He. Of course, Officer Jenny replied sheepishly. She then drove out of the Pokemon Center on her motorcycle. Ash then looked up at Nurse Joy with pleading eyes. "Please tell me the Pokemon are going to be alright," he said. "We are about to examine them now." "I will let you know as soon as I find out anything," Nurse Joy replied as she disappeared into the back room. Ash and Serena decided it would be best to wash up and change while their Pokemon were being healed. They both took out their change of clothes from their backpacks and went to their respective bathrooms to change. Ash had changed into a white t-shirt with a Pokeball symbol on it and black athletic shorts, and Serena changed into a plain light pink shirt and pink shorts. They also found a small laundry room to wash their other clothes. Ash and Serena then decided to sit down on one of the sofas in the lobby while they waited. Ash went ahead to sit down while Serena went over to the vending machine to get two bottled waters. She returned and handed one to Ash. She noticed how upset of an expression he had and looked at Ash worriedly. She was worried about her Charmander, but new Pikachu was in much worse shape. She then placed a comforting hand on Ash's shoulder as she sat down next to him. "Don't worry, Ash. The Pokemon Centers specialize in Pokemon treatment. Pikachu will just fine. You'll see," she told him. Ash managed a small smile but still had the sad look in his eyes. "Thanks, Serena. It's just the fact that it got hurt trying to protect me. I have to make sure it's okay," he muttered. Serena nodded her head sympathetically. Ash then stood up. "Serena, I'm going to take a quick shower since I still feel really dirty. I'll be back in a little bit," he said as he walked off. Serena was then left to her own musings. "Ash will probably sign up for the Pokemon League while we are here," she thought. "I like Pokemon battles, but there has to be something else besides the Pokemon League that I can do." Serena pondered on this for the next several minutes until she noticed two posters on the wall of the Pokemon Centers. One was an advertisement for the Pokemon League, but the other was for something else called the Battle Chateau. She walked up to the two posters to get a closer look at them. "Do you think you have what it takes to conquer the newly created Battle Chateau?" the advertisement for the Battle Chateau said. "Battle many different trainers and improve your rank. Become known throughout the entire region. Become the best and win special prizes. Battle Chateau." Serena thought. "Hey, Serena. What are you looking at?" a voice said behind her. Serena turned around and saw Ash approaching, still in his alternative clothes. I was just looking at these two posters, she answered as Ash stopped next to her. Hey! It's an advertisement for the Pokemon League. Ash said excitedly. Do you want to be the very best? Think you have what it takes to conquer the toughest trainers in the region? Challenge the Pokemon gyms and find out. Win all 8 badges from the gym leaders and qualify for the Pokemon League. Winners may even get a chance to challenge the Elite Four. Sign up at the nearest Pokemon Center. Awesome! I need to make sure to do that while I'm here. Ash exclaimed enthusiastically. Since we are still waiting to hear about our Pokemon, why don't we call home? I'm sure our moms would like to make sure that we're okay, Serena suggested. Yeah. Good idea, Ash replied as they walked over to the video phone. Serena took one last look at the Battle Chateau poster on the wall. I should look further into that, she thought. Once they reached the phones, Serena spoke up. Is it okay if I call my mom first? She asked. Sure. Go right ahead, Ash responded with a nod. Ash stood next to Serena as she dialed the number to her house and heard it ringing on the other end. At the third ring it was picked up, and Serena heard her mother's voice. Hello. Grace said from the other end. Hi, Mom. It's us, Serena answered. Oh, Serena. Delia. It's Serena and Ash. Grace exclaimed from the other end. A few seconds later her image appeared on the screen. She was soon joined by Delia Ketchum. Mom. You are over there also? Ash questioned. Well, of course, Ash. Grace and I are friends, after all. She invited me over for a cup of coffee, Delia replied. Oh, right, Ash muttered. Anyway, how has everything been so far? Grace asked them. Serena frowned. Not so good. We were attacked by a flock of Spearow, and our Pokemon were hurt, too. Their moms then got a worried look on their face. Oh, no. You two weren't injured also, were you? Delia asked. No. We were fine, Serena replied. They weren't about to tell their mothers that Ash was almost run through by the whole flock of Spearow. We know your Pokemon are hurt, and they protected you like they are supposed to, but don't forget to keep them safe, as well. When you and your Pokemon can become as one team, you can soar like a Pidgeot. Grace advised. Right. We will, they answered. Remember to eat right and get enough sleep, too, Delia added in. Of course, the two answered again. Is there anything else you need? Grace asked. Yeah. I have a question, Mom. Have you ever heard of the Battle Chateau? Serena spoke up. I have seen a few advertisements on television and in the newspaper. It's a very new concept that was organized only within the past 6 months. It has been promoted a lot recently to try and get people to notice and try it out, Grace answered. Okay. I was just wondering. Thanks, Serena smiled. No problem. Can I help you with anything else? Grace asked. No. I'm good, Serena said. Well, okay, good night, you two. Call us again soon, Grace finished, followed by a wave and good night from Delia. Good night. Love you, the two said. Then Serena hung up the phone. Ash then remembered something. Hey. Remember that huge Pokemon we saw fly over the rainbow? I had never seen a Pokemon like that before. Do you think we should tell Professor Oak about it? Maybe he could give us some information. Ash figured. Okay. I'm curious about it, myself, Serena replied. This time it was Ash who picked up the phone and dialed. He heard the phone ring for a minute before he heard Professor Oak's voice say, Oak Pokemon Lab. May I help you? Hey, Professor Oak. It's Ash and Serena, Ash replied. He then saw the video screen turn on, and Professor Oak appeared. "Ah, hello there, you two. I see you made it to Viridian City. Your mothers told me that you would be traveling together. I knew you two could get there by nightfall," Professor Oak said. "Thanks, Professor. We were calling because we were wondering if you could tell us anything about this Pokemon," Ash requested as he held up his Pokédex and pressed a button to make a picture of the majestic Pokemon appear. "Great Galloping Rapidash. Where in blazes did you find that picture?" Professor Oak exclaimed. "I got its picture on my Pokédex when I saw it," Ash replied. "You two saw that Pokemon? That's incredible," Professor Oak said in amazement. "What's so special about it?" Serena asked curiously. "You two clearly don't know what you have seen. Trainers and researchers like myself have searched our entire lives for this Pokemon and have never seen it," Professor Oak replied. "Wow, Serena. We just saw a legendary Pokemon," Ash said excitedly and turned to her, which caused her to smile. "Indeed. Perhaps this is a sign that you two will have great things happen to you on your journey. I'm very impressed," Professor Oak said while folding his arms and nodding his head. "Thanks, Professor," they both replied. "Ash, if it's not too much trouble, do you think could scan the image of that Pokemon for me to send it to the lab? I would like to study it more. Just slide your Pokédex into that slot on the left side of the video phone," Professor Oak requested. "Sure. No problem," Ash replied as he did so. "All right. I have the picture coming out right now on this end." "Thank you both," Professor Oak said gratefully. "You're welcome," they both replied. They then heard a beeping noise from the other end. "Oh. I have to go. The tofu's done. Take care," Professor Oak said hurriedly before hanging up. Ash and Serena chuckled softly at the professor's antics before they heard a very angry voice behind them. "Now I've got you," the voice called. They both spun around at the voice, and they were quite surprised. Standing at the entrance to the Pokemon Center was the red-haired girl from earlier that day, Misty. She was holding a very ruined bicycle above her head, and she looked very angry. "I thought I might find you here at the Pokemon Center," Misty yelled as she stomped towards them. "What happened to your bike?" Ash asked stupidly. Misty got a look of disbelief on her face. "Are you serious? You two happened to my bike, you little twerps. You stole it and apparently ruined it in the process. This is all that's left." Ash and Serena were trying to recall what could have ruined the girl's bike, and then they remembered Pikachu's Thunderbolt attack as realization hit them. They sweat dropped. "You two are going to buy me a new one, and I'm not letting you out of my sight until you do," Misty shouted angrily. Serena was liking this girl less and less every second. She had done nothing but shout at them ever since they met. Did she even know how to speak in a normal tone of voice? "All right. We're sorry. We'll get you a new bike, but we need to make sure our Pokemon are all right first," Ash said calmly to try to quell the girl's anger. Serena looked at Ash in surprise. They shouldn't have to owe this girl anything with the way she has been treating them. "Oh no, you don't. I'm not falling for that one again. You are buying me a new bike right now," Misty stated firmly. That did it for Serena. "Are you so materialistic that you care about your stupid bike more than the life of Pokemon? Our Pokemon are really injured in there, and all you care about is getting another bike? Ash and I shouldn't have to owe you anything," Serena said, glaring at Misty. "What's that supposed to mean?" Misty shouted, directing her attention at Serena. Serena smirked. This girl had walked right into that one. "It means you're a spoiled brat." "Why you?" Misty growled, but didn't finish as Ash stepped in between them. "All right, guys. We've all gotten off on the wrong foot. Let's start over, Ash said nervously and then faced Misty. My name is Ash Ketchum, and this is Serena Gabina. What's your name? I don't care what your names are. I just want a new bike. Misty shouted again. I promise we will get you a new bike as soon as we can, Ash said gently, trying to calm the girl. We are very sorry we took it, but it was an emergency. Will you please tell us your name? The girl's intense glare softened a little, only a little, though. Humph. Fine. My name's Misty, she huffed. It's nice to meet you, Misty, Ash replied, attempting a smile. Misty didn't return it. Don't expect me to become friends with you guys or anything, but I'll go ahead and ask how your Pokemon are. I hope it isn't serious, she stated. It's about time she quit shouting, thought Serena bitterly. She still had her arms crossed and hadn't let up on her glare. We don't know if it's serious or not, Ash muttered sadly. It's our first day as a Pokemon trainer, and our Pokemon are already hurt. You two need to learn to take better care of your Pokemon, Misty stated firmly and crossed her arms. If you don't, you will never get anywhere as a Pokemon trainer. I'd like to see you take on a flock of Spearow for your Pokemon like Ash did, Serena thought in aggravation, but held her tongue. She didn't feel the need to continue talking to Misty. They were then interrupted by a loud ding from behind them. The three turned around and saw the operation icon was turned off. The backroom doors opened and Chansey and Nurse Joy walked out, and they wheeling both Pikachu and Charla on a table. Ash and Serena immediately ran over to their Pokemon. Misty followed and also looked concerned. How are they, Nurse Joy? Ash asked once the group reached them. Nurse Joy gave a smile. Your Pokemon are very tired, but they will be just fine. They just need a good night's rest, and they will be as good as new, she said kindly. That's great. Serena said happily. She and Ash were really relieved that their Pokemon had no serious injuries. How are you feeling, Pikachu? Ash asked with Serena doing likewise with her Pokemon. Both Pokemon smiled weakly at their trainers and nodded their heads, signifying they were fine. I'm about to bring them back to the recovery room to rest for the night. You two should go in with them, Nurse Joy told Ash and Serena. Both trainers nodded and turned to Misty. Once again, we're really sorry about your bike, but we will need some time to make things right, Ash said. Misty sighed. Fine. Go ahead and take care of your Pokemon, and we will settle up later, she replied. Thanks for understanding, Ash nodded. He and Serena were just about to head with Nurse Joy and their Pokemon when they heard a loud buzzing throughout the center. Everyone in the room glanced around. What on earth could be causing that noise? Attention, everyone. Officer Jenny's voice rang on the intercoms. A hot air balloon belonging to a group of Pokemon thieves has been detected. Exercise extreme caution and keep your Pokemon safe. No sooner had they heard the announcement that a loud crash was heard from above. Everyone looked up and saw two Pokeballs falling from the broken skylight. They too. Pokeballs opened once they hit floor to reveal a long purple snake Pokemon with a yellow rings around its body and a rattle at the end. The other Pokemon was a spherical Pokemon with many craters on it. It had a skull and crossbones symbol on its center and what seemed like a permanent goofy smile on its face. As soon as the Pokemon were released, the spherical Pokemon let out a smoke screen attack from its craters, blinding everyone in the room. They then heard evil laughter. Once the smoke cleared, they looked and saw two people in uniforms with the big red R in the middle, and a Pokemon, Jessie and James and Meowth. Ash pulled out his Pokédex to scan the three new Pokemon. Ekans, the snake Pokemon. It moves silently and stealthily to sneak up on prey. The older it gets, the longer it grows. Coughing, the poison gas Pokemon. Toxic gas is held in its balloon-shaped body to cause massive explosions. Meowth, the scratch cat Pokemon. It loves to roam at night to gather coins and other objects that sparkle, and spends most of the daytime sleeping, the Pokédex said. Who are you guys? Ash exclaimed as he put his hands over his Pikachu protectively, with Serena doing the same. We will be happy to tell you, little boy. They answered. To protect the world from devastation. Jesse began. To unite all people within our nation. James said. To denounce the evils of truth and love. To extend our reach to the stars above. Jesse. James. Team Rocket blasts off at the speed of light. Surrender now or prepare to fight. Meowth. That's right. Meowth finished. Despite their amazement that a Meowth just talked, the group was more worried about the injured Pokemon. You must be the Pokemon thieves that have had the city so worried. Serena accused. We are much more than thieves. I assure you, Jesse replied. That's right. We are part of the deadly Team Rocket, James said, smiling evilly. I don't care what you're a part of. I'll never let you take Pikachu. Ash yelled with a determined look on his face. To his surprise, they chuckled. Oh, please. We don't have any interest in that yellow rat, so you can relax, Jesse sneered. We're only interested in strong Pokemon. You're wasting your time then. There are only injured Pokemon here at the Pokemon Center, Nurse Joy stated firmly. Not so fast, Nurse. There are definitely bound to be powerful Pokemon in here like that Charmander. If we turn it into a Charizard, it will make a great gift for the boss, James corrected, looking at Serena's Pokemon with interest. Forget it. Serena shouted. You don't have a choice. Ekans. Coughing. Attack. The Team Rocket members ordered as both Pokemon lunged forward. Everyone quickly got out of the way and made a run for it to the back room as Ekans and Coughing continued to cause havoc in the lobby. We need to transport all the Pokeballs to the other Pokemon centers as fast as possible before those crooks can get them. Nurse Joy said urgently once they were in the back room and Ash had locked the door. Right. Ash, Serena, and Misty nodded and began to scoop up few Pokeballs in each arm, but then the power shut off. Oh, no. They must have cut the power. Serena cried. Not to worry. We have our own source of power, Nurse Joy said. No later had she said that when the lights came back on. The three kids looked around and wondered what could have caused that. Ash, Serena, and Misty then looked to the center of the room to see a whole group of Pikachu using their electricity on a generator to power the Pokemon Center. That was a lucky Joy then ran over to a nearby computer and pressed a few select buttons, causing a certain machine next to it to turn on. Initiating emergency Pokemon transport sequence, the computer said. Right. Let's hurry up and transport them. I have them ready to be received at the other Pokemon centers. Nurse Joy said to the group. Everyone then began to send as many Pokeballs through the transporter as they could. They then heard banging coming from the other side of the door and knew that Team Rocket was trying to break the door down. We've got to hurry. Nurse Joy cried as she and everyone else began to move more frantically. The door then busted open with Ekans and Coughing taking the lead with Jesse, James, and Meowth behind them. Oh. It looks like they are trying to transport all the Pokemon, Jesse smirked. We can still grab that Charmander, though, James said, pointing at Serena's Charmander. Coughing, go get it. You too, Ekans, said Jesse. No. Serena cried as she ran forward and threw her arms around the Charmander, ready to protect it at all costs. Ekans and Coughing weren't deterred at all as they lunged forward, prepared to attack the girl, too, if necessary. Serena! Ash cried, as the Pokemon drew closer. Storie, come out and use water gun to protect them. Misty shouted as she released a small tan starfish-like Pokemon with a red jewel in the middle. The Pokemon then jumped in front of Serena and Charmander and used its water gun attack to blast back the two Pokemon just before they struck. They smashed back into Jessie, James, and Meowth, which caused them to tumble onto the floor. Serena stared at Misty in surprise. Wow! Thanks, Misty. You saved Charla and me, she said. Misty nodded at Serena before turning back to Storie. Use tackle attack, Storie, she said. Storie spun forward and slammed hard into Team Rocket, knocking them backwards. Out of the room. Great. That's the last of them. Nurse Joy announced as she and Ash finished placing the last few Pokeballs in the transporter. Grr. Don't think this is over, you little brats. Jessie growled as she and the rest of the Rocket members appeared again at the doorway. You may have transferred all of the Center's Pokemon, but we still have yours to take. That's right. We call a Pokemon battle. Let's see you take on both of us, little girl, James snarled as Ekans and Coughing got into battle positions. Pikachu then got to its feet and turned to Ash. Charla did the same and got a determined look on its face. Pika-Pie? Pikachu. Pikachu said. Ash looked at Pikachu concerned. You are saying you want to battle? Are you sure you're well enough to? He questioned. Pikachu. It nodded. You too, Charla? Serena asked, receiving a nod from the Pokemon. Heh. Good luck with those injured Pokemon. Jessie sneered. Ekans. Use Wrap Attack on Storie. Coughing. Use Tackle Attack on Pikachu. James ordered. Both Pokemon took stance and lunged at the Pokemon, ready to do their respective attacks. Charla. Use Ember on Ekans to protect Storie. Serena shouted. Pikachu. Use Thundershock on Coughing. Ash commanded. Both Pokemon launched their respective attacks, knocking the two Pokemon backwards at the feet of Jessie, James, and Meowth. Thanks, Serena, Misty said gratefully, turning back to Serena and smiling. You're welcome. Serena replied, giving Misty a smile of her own. Do I have to do everything myself? Meowth asked rhetorically as it extended its claws and charged at the Pokemon. I'll show you. Fury swipes. Storie. Use water gun on Meowth. Misty ordered. Storie then sprayed another jet of water at Meowth, pushing it backwards and into Jessie, James, Coughing, and Ekans. They went flying backwards out of the room and back into the lobby again. Ash, Serena, Misty, and their Pokemon followed them out and saw that Team Rocket was laying on the floor, completely drenched. Hey! Water conducts electricity. I know how to get rid of them. Pikachu used Thundershock on Team Rocket, Ash said and pointed at them. Pikachu nodded and let loose its Thundershock, greatly shocking Team Rocket. They cried out from the pain. Coughing, unable to control itself, let loose several poisonous gases. I remember. Serena realized. Those gases are flammable. Charla. Use Ember. Charla then let loose its Ember attack. As soon as the small bits of fire made contact with the gases, there was a large explosion, sending Team Rocket blasting through the roof and into the night. Ash and Serena leaped into the air their victory. Misty was standing behind them as she watched them celebrate. Maybe those two weren't so bad, after all. All right? Way to go, everyone. Ash cheered. Oh, thank you so much. You saved the Pokemon from Team Rocket. Nurse Joy said gratefully. Eheheh. Sorry about the damage we did to the center, Nurse Joy, Serena said sheepishly. Nurse Joy's sweat dropped. Oh, I'm sure we can get everything fixed. The most important thing is that you helped keep the Pokemon safe. Serena then turned to Misty. Hey, Misty. Thank you for protecting Charla and me. Really? Misty returned the smile. You're welcome. You protected Meister Yu, too. I have to admit, when we first met, I thought you were some irresponsible trainer, but now that I've actually talked to you, it turns out I was wrong. You're pretty okay and clearly love your Pokemon. Thanks, Misty. Same here. Why don't we start over? Serena suggested, extending her hand for Misty to shake. Misty nodded and reached her hand out also, and the two girls shook. That's great seeing you two get along now. Ash grinned. Don't forget, though. You two still owe me a new bike, Misty reminded. Heh heh. Don't worry. We are short on cash right now, but once we save up enough, I promise we'll get you a new one, Serena promised. Sounds good, Misty nodded. In the meantime, I'll just have to come with you. Ash and Serena exchanged glances with each other. What should they do? She wanted to keep tabs on them. Still, Misty had proven she could be pretty nice, after all. They also decided that having a trainer with some experience would be pretty helpful on their journey, too. Both of them then looked back at Misty and nodded. All right. The more, the merrier. Welcome to our group, Misty. Ash said happily. Since all of you helped keep the Pokemon safe, why don't you stay the night here for free? Nurse Joy offered. The rooms weren't damaged at all in the attack, so it should still be comfortable for you. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nurse Joy. Ash smiled before his stomach growled. I haven't had anything to eat in a while. Do you know where we can get some food? Everyone laughed at Ash's antics. Leave it to Ash to think about food. While they were laughing, Serena had thought about what an eventful first day they had. It had started off pretty terrible with the flock of Spearow, their Pokemon being injured. An attack by a criminal organization, and meeting a quick-tempered redhead. However, by the end, it had changed to a good day. They had seen a legendary Pokemon, saved the Pokemon of the Pokemon Center, made a new friend, and she saw something that might have captured her interest, the Battle Chateau. She couldn't wait to see what the rest of their journey would contain after today. Chapter 6, The Battle Chateau of Viridian City. Serena was getting ready for bed. She had already brushed her teeth for the night and was coming out of the bathroom in her pajamas. She sat on the bed and sighed. Opposite of her was Misty, who was already lying down in bed. They had decided to share a room together at the Pokemon Center in order not to take up too much open rooms in case other trainers came by. Ever since Misty and Serena shook hands and decided to travel together, and when Misty wasn't mentioning her bike, they got along pretty okay. Misty got on her side and propped herself up with her elbow on her pillow. So Serena, how long have you known Ash? She asked. I've known him for about 3 years now, Serena replied. We were at summer camp in Pallet Town. I had just moved to the area. I had fallen and hurt my leg during a scavenger hunt. He appeared and helped me by bandaging my leg and leading me by hand out of the forest. He completely dropped the scavenger hunt to make sure I was okay. That was nice of him, Misty said with a smile. Yeah. It was, Serena said, smiling back. He is definitely one of the kindest people I know. There aren't too many people out there who love people and Pokemon as much as he does. So are you two, boyfriend and girlfriend? Misty asked curiously. Serena blushed heavily at the question. No. No. We aren't dating or anything, she said nervously. Misty then got a sly look on her face. But you like him, don't you? Yeah. I do, Serena said nervously while rubbing the back of her neck and sweat dropping. Misty then replaced her mischievous look with one of curiosity again and asked. Why don't you let him know that you like him? I mean, I'm assuming he doesn't know. It's simple, really, Serena said matter-of-factly. Ash is the greatest person I've ever met. He's kind, generous, funny, and isn't afraid to protect those he cares about. I would hate for him to act weird around me if he knew I liked him and him not feel that way about me. I'm going out on a limb here, but from what I've seen, it seems that Ash cares a good deal about you also. He may like you. It's just he hasn't realized it yet. All it would take is a good push to get him to know his feelings for you. You will never know until you try. I know. I'm just not ready to tell him yet, Serena sighed. Misty smiled sympathetically. That's fine. You are still afraid of getting friend-zoned. That can be the worst place to be in when you have a crush on someone. Just tell him when you're ready. You sound like you speak from experience, Misty, Serena said. No way. I don't have a crush on anyone. Misty suddenly said defensively. All right. All right. Sorry, Serena said waving her hands in front of her face. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get to sleep, Misty said as she turned over and put her head on the pillow. Yeah. I need to also. I didn't get much sleep last night, Serena yawned. She then pulled her legs over the bed and got underneath the covers. She was asleep in few minutes. It was the next morning in Viridian City. Compared to the night before, both Ash and Serena got a good night's sleep. Their Pokémon were also feeling better and fully refreshed. Everyone was now in the cafeteria eating their breakfast at a booth in the cafeteria. Pikachu was licking a bottle of ketchup. It didn't know why, but it sure loved the stuff. So Ash. Serena told me that you are going to challenge the Indigo League, Misty said as she scooped up some cereal in her spoon to take a bite. That's right. Ash confirmed. I'm going to challenge all the gym leaders and then win. Don't get ahead of yourself, Misty said. Gym leaders are a lot stronger than your average trainer. They are no pushovers. You need to make sure you are prepared every time. Right, Ash replied as he took a bite of his food. Speaking of the Indigo League, have you signed up yet, Ash? Serena spoke up. Ash mentally smacked himself. I can't believe I forgot. He was about to get up and abandon his food to go, but Misty stopped him. Relax, Ash. Registration isn't going anywhere. There is no deadline. You can do so at any time, Misty said. Ash sighed with relief and sat back down. That's good. I would hate to have to waste all this good food. Ash said as he resumed eating. Serena chuckled while Misty rolled her eyes. Nurse Joy. I'd like to sign up for the Indigo Pokemon League, please, Ash stated. He, Serena, and Pikachu were back in the lobby at the front desk. Misty had gone back to her room real quick to retrieve her things. All right, Ash. I will just need to see your Pokédex. The computer up here in the lobby is still out of order from last night, but the one in the back still works, Nurse Joy told him. Ash nodded and handed his Pokédex to Nurse Joy. She then went to the back room to scan it. So are we ready to head out once this is done? Ash asked. Yeah. I have all my things, Serena replied. Pikachu. Pikachu nodded its head. Nurse Joy then returned with Ash's Pokédex and handed it back to him. Here you go, Ash. You are all signed up for the Indigo League. I wish you the best of luck, she said. Great. Thanks, Nurse Joy. I heard there is a gym here in Viridian City. Could you please tell me how to get there? Ash asked eagerly. Nurse Joy got an apologetic look on her face. Unfortunately, the gym leader isn't there at moment. He's always out doing various projects. He is one of the hardest gym leaders. To schedule a match with because he's away so often. He is also very secretive and shrouded in mystery. I don't even know his name, Nurse Joy told Ash. Oh. Okay then, Ash said, only slightly disappointed. In that case, where is the nearest one? That would be the one in Pewter City. My cousin works at the Pokemon Center there. I will email her to let her know you are coming. I'm sure she would like to thank you for helping the Pokemon as well, Nurse Joy said kindly. We will. Ash said. He then turned to Serena. So Serena, ready to head to Pewter City? Ash asked her. Actually, Ash, I was wondering if we could check someplace out before leaving the city, Serena requested while scratching her cheek. Sure. What is it? Ash asked. I saw this advertisement last night about something called the Battle Chateau. It was next to the poster for the Indigo League. I was hoping we could go there to see what it's like, Serena told him. No problem. Do you want to check out the Battle Chateau, Pikachu? Ash asked. Pika. Pikachu replied while holding up one its small paws and making a V shape with its fingers. Then let's go. Ash said as they turned towards the door. Hold it. Misty suddenly yelled behind them. They turned around to see Misty running up to them. I know you weren't thinking about leaving me behind. Don't forget. I'm staying with you guys until you get me a new bike. She reminded. Of course not. We weren't going to leave you behind. Hee 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 hee. Ash chuckled nervously. Well, whatever. So where are we headed to? Misty asked. There is this new facility called the Battle Chateau that we are going to see. It sounds like fun, Serena answered. You're actually in luck. I've heard of the Battle Chateau myself and happen to know the way there. Follow me, Misty said. She began to walk towards the exit. Everyone waved goodbye to Nurse Joy, and they were off. Well, here it is, Misty said once they reached the Battle Chateau. Ash and Serena looked up in amazement at the majestic building. It looked more like a castle than a battle facility, complete with spiral towers and stone bricks. The only that seemed to be missing was a moat. Whoa, Serena said in awe as she continued to stare. Well, are you two just going to stand there all day, or are we going in? I'm actually a little curious to see what the inside looks like myself, Misty said a little impatiently. Yeah. We're coming, Serena said as they walked in. The inside of the Battle Chateau was just as grand as the outside. Red carpet adorned the floors with expensive-looking vases on pedestals against the wall. There were several doorways against the wall which the group assumed led to the rooms for battling. There were also huge marble staircases that led up to higher floors. There were several maids and butlers walking around. There were also a few other kids in formal attire that were chatting. Welcome the Battle Chateau, beaux and dames, an elderly man with a goatee in a butler's outfit greeted. I am the head butler here. My name is Hennessy. He then gave a bow. Hello, the group said. Pikachu thought this man was rather intimidating and hid behind Ash. Is this, perhaps, your first time visiting here? Hennessy asked. Yes, it is, Serena answered. I saw an advertisement at the Pokemon Center and wanted to see what you had to offer here. Ah! Splendid! Hennessy said. As long as you trainers have received a recommendation from a person of stature, I will gladly accept you in. A recommendation? Ash asked confused. I don't think we have received anything like that. Oh dear. Perhaps there is someone you could call that I could speak to? Hennessy asked. I know. Serena spoke up. We can call Professor Oak. He will surely give us one. Oh. You know Professor Oak? Hennessy asked. Absolutely. Ash replied. He is actually our neighbor and we got our Pokédex from him. Well, that is just wonderful. Hennessy exclaimed. If you may just let me see your Pokédexes, that is good enough recommendation for me. Professor Oak wouldn't give someone a Pokédex he didn't deem a worthy trainer. Oh great. Serena said happily as she took out her Pokédex to give to Hennessy, Ash doing the same. After confirming their identities on their Pokédex, he then handed their Pokédexes back and clapped his hands together. Wonderful! He exclaimed. Will all of you be participating today? Hey, Serena. I'd like to try it out myself to see what it's like also, if that's okay. Ash said. Sure, Ash. I'd be very happy to have you try it with me, Serena said smiling. Great. What about you, Misty? Ash asked, turning to her. Actually, I will just sit and watch. This isn't really my thing, Misty replied. Okay, Hennessy. It will be Ash and me participating, Serena said, giving a nod. Excellent, madam. Hennessy said. You and the young sir right there may follow me so we may change your outfits. We have to change our clothes. Ash asked as he, Pikachu, and Serena began following Hennessy into another room. Certainly. This is a place for elegant trainers to try their skills. They must be able to look their best. Hennessy answered. Okay, Ash shrugged. Surely you want to look your best, Ash. Serena said. I'll bet he'll look really handsome in a formal outfit. She then thought and blushed slightly. Are you too sure you want to this? Misty asked a little unsurely. Of course. Why wouldn't we? Ash asked, turning back to look at Misty. Misty sighed. If you are sure. Hennessy then led them to another butler and a maid. I have a young sir and madam that would like to participate in our battle chateau today. Would you two be so kind as to lead them to their rooms to change? Hennessy asked. The butler and maid bowed. It would be our pleasure, sir, they said. Serena followed the maid down one hallway and Ash and Pikachu followed the butler down another. I'm getting so excited. Hee. Serena thought to herself. She was soon led into a changing room. Serena stood and looked around while the maid went to find an outfit for her. Even the changing room looked grand. There were several rows of dresses of different sizes that were aligned neatly and orderly. The room itself was sparkling clean and also had a red carpet. There were many different doors to where one could change clothes privately. Serena couldn't help but be amazed at how much effort the builders had put into this place. Here you are, madam, the maid said as she handed Serena her outfit. Please use one of the changing facilities over there, she pointed. Serena then went into one of the rooms, closed the door, and began to change. Once she was finished, she looked herself over in the mirror. She wore a long pink dress with short sleeves edged with white frills. She wore pantyhose on her legs with elegant pink flats to match. On her head was a sparkling pink headband. Oh wow! I look so cute, she said to herself. I can't wait for Ash to see me like this. She then walked out of the changing room, leaving her other clothes behind, and was led by the maid back to the front hall. She saw Ash was already back and was with Misty and Hennessy. He was wearing a white long-sleeve button-up shirt with a tie. He had on black trousers and black shoes with a black button-up coat. What stood out most to Serena about Ash was that his hair was actually combed. She didn't think she had ever seen his hair that neat in the entire time she has known him. He looked so handsome. Serena then went over to Ash. How do I look, Ash? She asked and did a twirl for emphasis. Ash looked pretty amazed. Wow! You look great, Serena. Very elegant. Serena smiled. It wasn't quite the reaction she was hoping for, but it was good enough coming from Ash. Well, thank you, Ash. You look very handsome yourself. Especially with your combed hair, she giggled. Heh, thanks. The butler made me do it, or I couldn't compete, Ash said nervously while rubbing the back of his neck. Pikachu then snickered at Ash, causing him to glare at it. Ha ha ha. Laugh it up, Pikachu. Why don't I put you in these clothes and see how you like it? Ash said, which promptly made Pikachu be quiet. If I may have your attention, please. While you were changing, the match UPS were decided for this tournament. I would now like to explain the rules, Hennessy politely cut in. Whenever you are at a battle chateau, you are assigned a rank. Since this is your first time at one, you both shall begin with the starting rank, Baroness for the young dame, and Baron for the young beau. In order to ascend higher and improve your rank, you must defeat trainers in battle. The ranks you can start with is Baron or Baroness, then Viscount or Viscountess, Earl or Countess, Marquis or Marchioness, and finally Duke or Duchess. Once you achieve that rank, you may then challenge our very own chatelaines. I suppose you could call them the Elite Four of our battle chateau for comparison. If you are able to defeat them in battle, you will receive a plaque, your picture on the wall, and a fabulous prize. So this is a tournament in itself? Serena asked. Yes, ma'am. We even have gym leaders battle here occasionally. The higher rank you become, the more recognition you will receive, and the more you may capture the attention of a gym trainer or even someone of the Elite Four, Hennessy said. I have another question, Hennessy, Serena said. Achieving the rank of Duchess seems like a lot of work to do for one day. How do people do it? Hennessy then chuckled softly. Oh ho ho ho. Dear dame, of course we don't expect you to do this all in one day or even in the same city. There are 5 different battle chateaus across the Kanto region. There is one here in Viridian City, one in Cerulean City, one in Celadon City, another in Saffron City, and finally, there is one in Fuchsia City. Whatever rank you achieve here will carry over with you to any battle chateau in the region. You are presented with a different ribbon and title card every time you receive a new rank for confirmation. Oh, good, Serena sighed with relief. She couldn't wait to start trying to ascend in the ranks. She was hoping she could impress Ash by showing she was a good trainer. So without further ado, are you two ready to begin the tournament? Hennessy asked. Ash and Serena nodded. Wonderful. In that case, please follow me to the battle hall where you will face your first opponent. There will be 10 other trainers participating in this tournament. It will be played out like a standard tournament. Each trainer will face against one other opponent. The winner gets to move on to the next round while the loser is out. This goes on until only 2 trainers are left. The winner gets to move up to the next rank. Do you understand? Hennessy asked, receiving a nod. The group then began to walk towards the battle hall. While they were walking, something suddenly occurred to Ash. Hey, Misty. Why is it you didn't need to have a recommendation to come in like Serena and me? You said you have never been here before, he said curiously. Oh, it's nothing. The battle chateau already knew I didn't need a recommendation, Misty said nervously while looking in the opposite direction. How did they know that? Ash asked. It's none of your business. Misty said moodily. All right. Sorry, Ash said as they entered the hall. As they expected, the battle hall was a very large room with deep red carpet across the whole room. Unlike the rest of the battle chateau, however, the room was pretty bare. The only decorations were the various pictures that lined the wall. Ash, Serena, and Misty assumed it was because of the intense Pokemon battles that took place in this room and the staff didn't want to risk anything being broken. Hennessy then turned to Serena. Madam, you will be part of the first tier, so you will be battling first in our single battle. Your opponent will be a boy by the name of Joshua. Good luck with your match. Can we stay and watch her battle? Ash asked hopefully. Of course, sir. Just be sure to be in your battle room by your scheduled battle time. You will be in the third tier. Hennessy answered. He then gave a bow and left the room. This is going to be your first real battle, Serena. Are you excited? Ash asked her enthusiastically. Yes. I'm just really nervous, but I can do it. I believe in Charla, Serena said. I know you can do it. Misty, Pikachu, and I will be right there on the sidelines cheering you on. Ash said, giving her a thumbs up. Thanks, Ash. Serena smiled. I think that must be your opponent, Serena, Misty said, pointing to the other end of the room. Ash and Serena turned, and sure enough, a young boy around their age was walking into the room. He had short, neatly combed brown hair and had a determined look on his face. He definitely didn't look prepared to lose. Go get him, Serena. Ash said as he, Misty, and Pikachu went to the edge of the room to watch. The judge then stood in the center of the room. This is an official match of the Battle Chateau tournament. The match shall be one-on-one. Whoever wins shall advance further in the tournament. Whoever loses shall be eliminated. Before the match begins, may the beau bow and the dame curtsy to one another, he informed. Serena smiled at the boy opposite of her and did a light curtsy. The boy gave a smile back and bowed. Now please choose your Pokemon, the judge called out. Serena took a deep breath before exhaling. Here I go, she thought. She then reached and grabbed her Pokeball. Charla, come on out, she said as she threw it. The ball landed on the floor and opened to reveal the Fire-type Pokemon. Char. Char. It said once it came up. It seemed ready for its first battle despite its lack of experience. The opposing trainer also threw his Pokeball. Nidoran. I choose you. The Pokeball opened to reveal a small pink rabbit-like Pokemon with a large horn on its forehead. Ah, a male Nidoran, Serena said as she opened her Pokédex to scan it. Nidoran, the poison pin Pokemon, it has large poisonous horn on its forehead, the Pokédex said. Be careful of the horn, Charla. Serena called out to Charla, who nodded. This match between Serena and Joshua will now start. There will be no time limit. Begin. The judge yelled, waving down both of his flags. Nidoran. Use horn attack. Go. Joshua immediately said. The Nidoran charged forward at full speed ready to attack Charla. Serena was incredibly surprised at how quickly the boy had called out to Nidoran and how quickly it responded. Serena, say a command. Serena heard Ash call. Oh, right. Charla, dodge it. She called, but it was too late. Charla was hit by the horn dead on and sent flying backwards. It landed on the ground in pain. Charla. Are you okay? Serena asked as Charla slowly rose back to its feet. It then nodded its head, signifying it could still fight. That's great, Nidoran. Now use Poison Sting. Joshua commanded. Nidoran then leaped into the air and shot several glowing needles from its horn right at Charla. Dodge it, Charla. Serena called. Charla then leaped out of the way. She's not going to win if all she is doing is dodging, Misty said to herself. Charge straight at Charmander and use horn attack, Nidoran. The male trainer called out. Nidoran leaned back a little and charged straight at Charla again. Now's my chance, Serena thought. Charla, use Ember. Charla then took a deep breath and shot out as many embers as it could from its mouth in hopes of hitting the Nidoran. Joshua smiled. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. Leap into the air, Nidoran. Nidoran leaped into the air high above Charla, completely dodging the ember attack. What? Cried Serena. Now use poison sting. The other trainer called. Nidoran then pointed its head downward while in midair so its head was pointing straight at Charla. It then let loose a barrage of needles. Due to the proximity of the attack, Charla was unable to dodge and hit with almost every needle. It then began to cough and look sick. Charla had been poisoned. Oh no. Charla, said Serena with worry. Finish this off with tackle. Joshua called. Try an ember attack, called Serena frantically. Charla took a deep breath to use ember attack, but Nidoran collided with it before it had a chance to let loose its attack. Charla was sent flying backwards and landed on its back. This time not getting up. Charla, are you okay? Serena asked. Char. It muttered weakly. Charmander is unable to battle. The winner is Joshua. Serena is eliminated from today's tournament. The judge called out, waving the flag in his left hand and pointing to Joshua. Way to go, Nidoran. Joshua said as he went over to pet it before returning it to its pokeball. He then looked over at Serena and gave a short nod before leaving the room. Serena sank to her knees. She couldn't believe it. She never even landed a hit. It had ended so quickly. Return, Charla. Good job, she said sadly as she returned Charla to its pokeball. She then heard footsteps behind her and figured it was Ash, Misty, and Pikachu. Serena. Ash trailed, confirming her guess. Serena then turned to Ash and looked at him sadly. Ash, I didn't even land a hit, she said. I know. It's okay, he replied. You tried, Serena. That trainer was just a little better, Misty said. Serena looked at the ground again. More like he was a lot better. It was her first real battle, and she lost horribly. That really stung. I'm sorry, Charla, she said as looked at her pokeball. She then felt a comforting hand on her shoulder and turned around to find Ash attempting a smile at her. She slowly tried to smile back and managed a weak one in return, but it quickly left her face. This is an official match of the Battle Chateau tournament. The match shall be one-on-one. Whoever wins shall advance further in the tournament. Whoever loses shall be eliminated. Before the match begins, may the bows bow to one another, the judge said. Ash bowed while his opponent did the same. It was now Ash's turn at the Battle Chateau. Seeing Serena lose like that had upset him a little bit, but he also knew he would have to focus on the match. Hopefully he could win. Now please choose your Pokemon, the judge said. Ash looked at Pikachu. Well, you're up, Pikachu. You can do it, Ash said. Pika. Pikachu nodded and ran forward to the center of the battle hall. The other trainer seemed to think for a moment before making his decision. I choose you, Mankey. He then threw his Pokeball. The ball landed on the floor to reveal a pig monkey-looking Pokemon that was covered with white fur except for the ends of its thin arms and legs. It seemed to have an angry expression on its face. A Mankey, Ash said to himself as he scanned it with his Pokédex. Mankey. The pig monkey Pokemon. Although normally friendly, it has a very quick temper and can rampage. The Pokédex said. Come on, Ash. You can win it. Serena called out from the side of the hall. Misty stood watching silently. This match between Ash and Chris will now start. There will be no time limit. Begin. The judge yelled, waving down both of his flags. Okay, Pikachu. Let's start this off with a Thunder Shock, Ash said. Pika it nodded, then charged up power in its cheeks and released a Thunder Shock at Mankey. It was a direct hit. Mankey grimaced at the pain but quickly shook it off. All right, Mankey. Hit it with a karate chop, Chris ordered. Mankey then ran forward prepared to do the attack to Pikachu. Use quick attack to avoid it, Pikachu, Ash ordered. Pikachu shot out of the way, and then began to run around in circles around Mankey. Mankey was trying to keep up with Pikachu, but it soon got dizzy. Now's your chance, Pikachu. Mankey's center is probably its weak spot. Hit right there, Ash called. For some reason, he saw a strange smile on Chris's face when he ordered that command. Something was up. Pikachu. Pikachu then ran forward and hit Mankey square in the stomach. Mankey yelled in pain before flying backwards. It must have been a critical hit. Good job, Pikachu, Ash said. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. You activated my Pokémon's special ability, Anger Point, Chris said before calling out, Mankey, get up and use your karate chop. Mankey got up, but something was different about it. It was beet red and seemed to be extremely angry. It let out what sounded like a battle cry and charged forward with great speed. Pikachu. Use quick attack to get out of the way. Try attacking it from a distance, Ash said. Pikachu obeyed and swiftly got out of the way, but Mankey turned just as fast, surprising Pikachu before it was hit by Mankey's karate chop. Cha-a-a-a-a. Pikachu cried out before being sent sailing through the air a lot farther than Ash would think from a karate chop. Pikachu hit the wall and then fell to the ground in defeat. Pikachu, Ash cried. Pikachu is unable to battle. The winner is Chris, the judge said, raising its flag to point at Chris. One shot. I can't believe it. How? Ash asked himself. He was clearly stunned. It's because you activated my Mankey's special ability, Anger Point. Every time Mankey get hit with a critical hit, its attack is boosted to incredible levels, getting most Pokemon in their weak spot is normally a good strategy, but it works in favor of Mankey. That was your big mistake, Chris said before returning Mankey to its Pokeball and leaving the room. Ash watched him go, and then went over to pick up Pikachu. Hey Pikachu! You did great, buddy. It was my fault, Ash said sadly. Serena watched Ash from the sidelines. She couldn't believe it. Ash lost, too, and he was doing so well at first. When Serena decided to take on the Battle Chateau challenge, she had no idea it would be this tough. Ash came up to join them. I don't understand. I thought Pikachu and I were ready for a battle. Where did I go wrong? Ash said more to himself than Serena and Misty. We better get your Pokemon back to the Pokemon Center, Misty said. There is something I would like to talk to you two about. She then began to walk away. Right, they both said. They then followed Misty. The group had now returned to the Pokemon Center. There were now several workers in the lobby that were repairing some of the damage that was caused last night and a few construction workers on the roof that were attempting to repair the hole in the roof. Despite all the loud noise going on, the center was still in operation. Nurse Joy was surprised to see them back so soon, but still graciously accepted their Pokemon and took them to the back room to heal them. She had told them that their Pokemon's wounds weren't as severe this time, which was a great comfort to Ash and Serena. Ash and Serena were now sitting on a couch in the lobby, both musing to themselves how they could make it as trainers if they were always going to lose this badly. Misty had walked over and was now standing in front of them. You two are pretty naive, you know, Misty suddenly spoke up, causing them both to look at her. What do you mean? Ash asked. Misty sighed. I mean, how did you expect to do well at the Battle Chateau when you only have one Pokemon each, and neither of them have ever battled before? She said with her hands on her hips. Well, Serena began, but couldn't find an answer. Ash was the same way. The battle chateau, or any other battle facility, isn't to be taken lightly. The trainers that go to that place and that are taking the Indigo League challenge are just as serious as you two are about becoming trainers. They aren't just going to barge straight in there and expect to win with inexperienced Pokemon. Misty said with a hint of anger in her voice. So you are saying it's our Pokemon's fault? Ash said, giving Misty an angry look. Of course it isn't. It's your fault for having such poor judgment. Misty yelled, causing Ash to shrink back. I thought that if we trusted our Pokemon, that would be enough to win the fight, Ash said sadly and looked down at the floor. I'm afraid it isn't, Misty said, also lowering her voice. Trusting your Pokemon is important in battle, but you also have to be smart in battle also. Your Pokemon had never had a real battle before. If you want to do well in battle, you have to train your Pokemon. Develop a bond with them. Form your own battle style. Get experience. Start by battling other beginning trainers like yourselves, because I guarantee you every other trainer in the battle chateau had already been trainers a while. Ash and Serena closed their eyes. Misty's words stung, but she was right. They were both being too eager for battle. They couldn't just expect to do well with their Pokemon careers if they didn't gain experience first. I let you go to the battle chateau because I was hoping you would see for yourselves all the aspiring trainers there that were taking their training seriously, hoping for you to follow their example and train just as hard. I didn't think you would actually participate. Misty said, throwing her hands in the air. Ash and Serena grimaced. That had made a lot of rash decisions so far on their journey, and it's gotten them in trouble each time. If you two are going to make it as Pokemon trainers, you have to stop being so impulsive. Think before you do anything. Study your opponent. Read about a Pokemon's strengths and weaknesses before you battle so you know if they have a trick up their sleeve like that Mankey. Start with battles that are more your own level. Misty continued. We're sorry, they both said. Misty sighed. I'm not the one you should be apologizing to. Just then, the busy signal went off in the back room, signifying Ash and Serena's Pokemon were out of examination. Nurse Joy and Jinsey then came out with Pikachu and Charla behind them. They both went over to their Pokemon, seeing them almost as good as new. Since the injuries weren't as serious this time, I was able to treat your Pokemon with a super potion each, Nurse Joy smiled. That's great. Ash said. Serena got a happy look their face. They then remembered they had something to do. Hey, Pikachu. I'm sorry I put you through that. I forgot you had probably never battled since your last trainer. I was really unprepared for the match and you had to suffer at it. I won't that mistake again. Will you forgive me? Ash asked hopefully. I'm sorry, too, Charla. I was really rash to put you into a battle facility for our very first match. I promise I'll make better decisions from now on, Serena said. Both Pokemon nodded. They both trusted their trainers. They certainly were not going to leave them after one mistake. Thanks. Ash and Serena said gratefully. Ash gave Pikachu a high five and Serena hugging Charla. They then turned to Misty, now with a renewed look of determination. You're right, Misty. Thanks for telling us that. I'm going to make sure to make a lot better decisions from now on and not be so rash and stubborn. I'm going to capture more Pokemon and train them hard and form a bond with them. Then together, my Pokemon and I will become great friends and tackle anything ahead of us. Ash said with a determined look on his face. Right? Me, too. Serena said with an equal amount of determination. Sounds good. Misty said, smiling back. So where do we head to now? Serena asked. Well, I remember Nurse Joy saying that Pewter City is closest. Let's go through the Viridian Forest to get there. We can capture some more Pokemon while we are there and get some training in before our next big battle, Ash said. Great. Viridian Forest. Where all the creepy bugs are, Misty mumbled to herself. Did you say something, Misty? Ash asked, him as well as Serena giving Misty a questioning look. Nope. Nothing. Let's hurry up and go. Misty said, marching ahead of them. Serena then returned Charla to her Pokeball and began to follow Misty, giving Ash a weird look, as if asking what was up with Misty's behavior. Ash shrugged and began following also. Pikachu following its trainer. Everyone waved goodbye to Nurse Joy again and left the building with Ash and Serena's heads held high. After today, Ash and Serena both realized they still had a lot of growing up to do. Becoming a Pokemon trainer was a big responsibility. They would have to make a lot of rational decisions from now on and would need to mature in order to make it as a trainer. Maybe these losses were just what they needed to get them serious about their careers as well. They had set out on their journey to be best, and that's exactly what they were going to do.